Welcome. Tonight we journey into a peculiar corner of history, exploring the unexpected affliction that accompanied medieval fortune and influence. Settle in perhaps with a soft light and a quiet hum in the background as we embark on this story. And if you find yourself enjoying our tales, a simple like or subscribe would mean the world. It truly helps our community grow. I'm always fascinated to know where our listeners are, so please leave a comment telling us your city and the current time. It's wonderful to see our small international family gathering around these narratives. You awaken, the year you realize, with a slow dawning certainty, is 1398. You are in a majestic stone manor, deep within the pastoral English countryside. Slender streams of morning light pierce the narrow windows, illuminating dust motes dancing in your chamber. You shift beneath the substantial weight of wool blankets, your body nestled in a mattress packed with goose feathers and extravagance, reserved for the very rich. The common folk, the peasants, sleep on lumpy straw pallets that are a haven for fleas and other biting insects. But you are not a peasant. You are Lord William Thornbrook, a man whose wealth is among the greatest in this county. The good fortune is that your riches are nearly incomprehensible to the laborers who toil on your lands. The misfortune, your big toe is screaming, a sensation akin to a white-hot spike being hammered into it. The most minute shift of your body unleashes a torrent of agony that surges up your leg. You have the gout, an ailment the learned physicians have named the disease of kings. Your day commences, as it always does, with attendants appearing at your bedside. While the peasants were up before the sun, milking their cows and heading to the fields, you have slumbered long past the dawn. Thomas, your head servant, draws near, holding a silver ewer and basin filled with rose-infused water for you to wash. Following him are two junior servants, their arms laden with your attire for the day. Tunics of fine wool dyed in costly pigments and lined with lustrous silk brought from distant shores. My lord, Thomas murmurs, bowing his head, the household awaits your direction for the day. The steward requires your approval for the upcoming feast preparations, and you silence him with a sharp groan. Fetch the physician. My foot, it is the gout again. Thomas's expression droops. He has witnessed these attacks before and understands the misery that is to follow. At once, my lord, you make an effort to sit upright, but the motion sends a bolt of pain so blindingly intense through your foot that you choke back a cry. The swelling is back. The joint of your big toe has bloated into something resembling a large red plum, radiating heat, and so exquisitely sensitive that the weight of a simple linen sheet feels like a form of torture. This, you muse with a bitter heart, is the unseen tax on your high station. While the peasantry contends with scarcity and the harshness of the elements, the gentry battles its own set of torments. The commoners might look upon your overflowing table, your sturdy shelter, and your elegant clothes with envy, but they do not witness the toll such luxuries exact upon your body. The chamber door swings open, and Master Gilbert, your physician, shuffles in. He is not like the village healers, who treat common ailments with traditional herbs and charms. Master Gilbert received his education at the esteemed medical school in Montpellier, France. A single visit from him costs more than a peasant might see in a month's hard labor. But what is the point of wealth if not to secure the most expert care available? My lord, Master Gilbert intones solemnly, placing his leather satchel of medical tools on a nearby chest. The gout has returned, I perceive. You scowl, like a persistent debt. What accursed thing did I consume this time, master? Gilbert gently strokes his graying beard, his eyes fixed on your swollen foot, though he is careful not to touch it. The skin is stretched taut and gleams with a vibrant red hue that testifies to the fire smoldering within. As I have previously explained, my lord, it is a disturbance of your humors. The phlegm, which is cold and moist, has accumulated in your joint, where it has become corrupted, thus causing this great pain. But the root cause, he pauses, aware his next words will be unwelcome. Yes, I know, you snap with impatience. My rich diet and my wine. It is the same sermon every time, Gilbert. The physician gives a slow nod, entirely unfazed by your temper. Indeed, my lord, your body is overproducing the uric humor, a consequence of the rich meats, the sweet wines, and the various delicacies that grace your table each night. These corrupted humors then crystallize in the cooler extremities of your body, most commonly the feet, as they are the farthest from the warming influence of your heart. What Master Gilbert leaves unsaid, but what both of you understand, is that your bouts of gout have grown more frequent. Last year, you were afflicted perhaps 3 times. This year, you have already suffered through 4 attacks, and the season is only autumn. Each episode lingers longer than the last, and your recovery period lengthens. You are aware of other nobles who have been rendered nearly immobile by repeated assaults, their fingers and toes twisted into permanent deformities by the buildup of what physicians call toffee-hard chalk-like lumps that form beneath the skin. This is the vicious paradox of your status. While the peasants work from dawn until dusk, their bodies conditioned by toil and sustained by a simple diet, you indulge in a life of relative inactivity and sumptuous meals that are systematically poisoning your joints. Master Gilbert retrieves several glass vials and small packets of herbs from his satchel. I have prepared several treatments, my lord. First, a poultice of herbs to draw out the heat and diminish the swelling. He produces a bundle of dried plants, meadowsweet, willow bark, and others recognized for their anti-inflammatory properties. These will be ground into a powder and mixed with wine vinegar to form a paste that, when spread over your throbbing joint, will offer a measure of blessed relief. And for the pain, he adds, a tincture of poppy. This is the most valuable medicine in his arsenal. Distilled from the seed pods of poppies cultivated in far-off lands, it can mute even the most excruciating agony, but it carries its own cost. It befuddles the mind, and with frequent use, it can foster a dependence that consumes a man's spirit and fortune. You have known nobles who became slaves to poppy tincture, their wealth draining away as they procured ever-increasing quantities of the expensive substance. I have also brought autumn crocus, Master Gilbert says, holding up a small pouch. The physicians of Byzantium discovered its efficacy for gout. It must be administered with great care. An overdose can cause vomiting and worse, but a precise dose can significantly shorten your suffering. Neither you nor he knows that. This plant contains a substance that future physicians will name colchicine, one of the very few truly effective treatments for an acute gout attack. The Byzantine doctors had discovered this remedy centuries before, and its use has since trickled across Europe, passed from one physician to another without any real comprehension of its mechanism. As Master Gilbert begins to prepare his remedies, grinding the herbs with a small mortar and pestle, you gaze out the window at your domain. Your lands extend for miles, a patchwork of fields, forests, and villages inhabited by the peasants who work for you from sunrise to sunset. You levy taxes upon them, offer them protection with your soldiers, and sit in judgment of their disputes. In exchange, they generate the very wealth that sustains your lifestyle. Outside, you can see laborers bringing in the autumn harvest. Men arc scythes through fields of golden wheat. Women follow, gathering and tying the stalks into sheaves. Children scamper behind, gleaning any stray grains. Their motions are rhythmic and well-rehearsed, their bodies conditioned by long years of physical work. Not a single one of them, you would bet, is afflicted with gout. Here, my lord, Master Gilbert says, recapturing your attention, drink this first. He offers you a small cup filled with a dark, viscous liquid. The intensely bitter flavor of poppy floods your mouth, and you grimace as you swallow. Before long, a pleasant warmth and numbness will spread through you, softening the sharp edges of your torment. Next is the poultice. Master Gilbert carefully spreads the herbal paste over your inflamed joint and then wraps it securely with a clean linen bandage. The coolness of the poultice brings immediate, though minor, relief. The autumn crocus I have mixed with wine, he clarifies, presenting another cup. Drink it slowly. You may experience some mild unease in your stomach, but it will pass. You obey, wincing at the unfamiliar taste. Then you recline against your pillows, awaiting the full effect of the remedies. Rest now, my lord, Master Gilbert counsels. No rich foods for you today, only barley water, a little bread, and perhaps some boiled chicken without the skin. I shall return this evening to monitor your progress. As he packs away his instruments, you motion to Thomas, who has been standing silently by the door. Pay Master Gilbert his fee. The physician bows and takes his leave, leaving you to your thoughts and your receding pain. Through the window, you hear the steady, rhythmic swish of scythes slicing through wheat and the faint sound of a harvest song drifting up from the fields. Their lives are difficult in ways you can never fully grasp the perpetual anxiety over food, the exposure to weather and disease, the unceasing physical exertion that ages a body prematurely. Anxiety over food, the exposure to weather and disease, the unceasing physical exertion that ages a body prematurely. Yet here you lie, in your fine bed, inside your stone manor, crippled by an ailment that is, ironically, a direct byproduct of your privileged existence. This is the great equalizer. While station and wealth can protect you from many of life's hardships, the human body remains frail, susceptible to its own unique forms of suffering. The poppy tincture begins to weave its magic, cocooning your thoughts in a soft haze and blunting the sharpest points of your agony. As you drift toward unconsciousness, a question forms in your mind. Is your gout truly the most terrible aspect of being wealthy in medieval times? Or is it merely the physical symptom of a more profound truth that excess, no matter how desirable it may seem, always carries its own form of punishment? When you next awaken, the sun's position in the sky tells you it is mid-afternoon. The pain in your foot has lessened from a searing agony to a more manageable, dull throb, a testament to Master Gilbert's treatments. With the worst of the pain abated, your thoughts are clearer. Thomas materializes at your bedside holding a tray. Barley, water, and bread, my lord, as the physician instructed. The water is insipid, and the bread is plain peasant-style fare, although made from a finer flour than theirs. Your usual meals are a world apart. Roasted meats, bathed in decadent sauces, game birds, fish on fast days, all washed down with superior wines and ales, and followed by sweet desserts made with costly sugar. Your table is a direct reflection of your status, with each dish serving as a declaration of your wealth and power. But that very abundance is what has led you to this state. The human body was not engineered for such relentless luxury, particularly when combined with the largely sedentary life of the nobility. Peasants consume simple fare, primarily grains, vegetables, and the occasional piece of meat and engage in physical labor all day. Their bodies efficiently use what they consume, leaving little excess to build up as the painful crystals that cause your misery. My lord, Thomas begins with some hesitation. The steward still awaits your instructions. For tomorrow's feast, the spice merchant from London has arrived with your order, and tell him to proceed as we planned. You cut in. However, I want simpler dishes added to the menu. Less meat, more fish. And instruct the kitchens to use less wine in the sauces. Thomas appears taken aback, but quickly nods. Yes, my lord. And shall I inform your guests that you are indisposed? You mull this over. The feast is being held to honor a visiting baron, a man whose alliance you need. Your absence would be a strategic blunder. No, you resolve. I will attend. Have the servants ready a chair with extra cushions, so I may rest my foot and fetch my walking staff. After Thomas departs, you cautiously swing your legs. over the side of the bed. The motion reawakens a sharp pain in your toe, but it is now bearable. You stand gingerly, avoiding putting weight on the afflicted foot, and hop-step over to the window. From this vantage point, you can see the inner courtyard of your manor. Servants are rushing about their duties, preparing for the next day's feast. A cart heavy with barrels of ale is being unloaded. Smoke billows from the kitchen outbuildings, where cooks are already at work on dishes that require long, slow cooking. It requires a vast amount of human effort to sustain your way of life. Dozens of people labor ceaselessly so that you and your family can live in comfort and project the image that your station demands. This, perhaps, is another of the burdens of medieval wealth, the perpetual obligation to demonstrate your status through consumption and spectacle. Your table must groan under the weight of food. Your attire must be of the most expensive materials. Your residence must be impressive. To offer anything less would imply weakness or a decline in fortune. And so you spend extravagantly, you consume lavishly, and your body bears the cost. You think of King Henry IV, who suffers so terribly from gout that he is sometimes unable to walk or even ride a horse, yet he continues to feast and drink, as his royal position demands. He is trapped in the very same cycle as you. The disease of kings, indeed a mark of status that morphs into its own kind of prison. Evening settles, and Master Gilbert returns. As he promised, he inspects your foot, nodding with professional satisfaction at the diminished swelling. The remedies are working, he notes. The crisis is abating. But, my lord, to stave off future attacks, he lets his voice trail off, knowing you can finish the sentence. Less rich food, less wine, you say for him. More walking, more water. Precisely, he concurs. In particular, you should avoid organ meats, liver, kidneys, sweetbreads. You must limit your intake of game birds. Reduce your consumption of wine, especially the sweet varieties. This is sensible advice, built on centuries of observation by physicians who noted consistent patterns among gout sufferers. They have no understanding of the underlying biochemistry. That knowledge is hundreds of years away. But they have learned through experience that certain foods and drinks reliably provoke these attacks. I will try, you vow, though both of you are aware of the immense challenges. Your entire social existence is built around feasting and drinking. To abstain is to effectively withdraw from the very activities that forge alliances and broadcast your standing. After Master Gilbert leaves, your wife, Lady Eleonora, enters your chamber. Unlike you, she was up before sunrise to supervise the household, directing servants, checking accounts, and ensuring that every facet of your large estate operates seamlessly while you attend to political and business concerns. William, she says, seating herself gently on the edge of your bed. How are you? Better, you concede. Gilbert's treatments have helped. She sighs, taking your hand in hers. This is the second attack this month. You must be more careful. Lady Eleonora is from a noble family herself, and is well acquainted with the expectations placed upon a man of your rank. But she is also pragmatic and clear-sighted. The feast tomorrow, she says. I have already told the cooks to prepare a separate plate for you, with simpler foods. You can still preside at the high table and perform your duties as host without worsening your condition. You offer a grateful smile. This is why you married her, not merely for the alliance between your families or the lands and wealth she brought to the union, but for her sharp mind and her care. Thank you, you say. I was thinking, perhaps we should alter our daily meals, not just when I am suffering from the gout. She raises an eyebrow, like the monastics. Plain fare and prayer. You laugh, then wince as the movement jars your foot. Not quite so austere, but more fish, more vegetables, fewer of the rich sauces and sweet wines. Lady Eleonora contemplates. This, it would be more economical, freeing up funds that could be used for other things, and it might start a new trend. You know how the others at court imitate whatever you do. This is true. As one of the more prosperous and influential nobles in the region, your choices carry weight. If you were to start eating more plainly, it might become fashionable for other nobles to follow suit. A welcome reprieve for those who find it a struggle to maintain the expected level of conspicuous consumption. We will try it, you resolve, starting after tomorrow's feast. As night descends, servants arrive with candles to illuminate your chamber. The wax candles are yet another luxury that the common folk cannot afford, casting a warm, pleasant glow. Most peasants simply retire when darkness falls, or if they must stay awake, they use rushlight reeds soaked in animal fat. Your candles are made of beeswax, which is costly but burns more cleanly and smells sweeter than tallow. You ponder the stark contrast between your life and theirs. They rise with the sun and labor until their bodies ache, eating simple food and sleeping on straw. You awaken at your leisure, engage in politics and business instead of physical work. Consume rich foods that your body can barely process, and sleep on feathers and fine linen. They face the threat of starvation in lean years, the harshness of the elements, and the constant risk of disease with minimal medical attention. You face gout, obesity, and the political intrigues that are part of your position. Different hardships for different stations, but hardships all the same. This perhaps is the wisdom to be gleaned from your affliction, that no life regardless of its privilege is exempt from pain, that the human body is limited, irrespective of one's wealth or status, that excess, even when it is expected and admired, demands its own payment. As you drift towards sleep, your foot still aching but bearably so, you resolve to find a better equilibrium to uphold your position without sacrificing your health. It will not be simple in a world where consumption is the very definition of status, but if anyone can chart a new path, it is someone with the privilege and power to make that choice. Tomorrow will bring the feast, with all its inherent temptations and duties. But perhaps the day after that will mark the beginning of a more prudent course, one where you can enjoy the advantages of your station without becoming a victim of its excesses. The worst aspect of being rich in medieval times is not just the gout. It's the gilded cage of expectations that compels you to consume the very things that harm you. But even a golden cage has a door, if one has the courage to find it and step through. Morning breaks with a weak sun struggling to penetrate the mist that envelops your estate. You awaken to find your foot has improved. It is still tender and slightly swollen, but the fierce, burning pain has receded. Master Gilbert's remedies, especially the autumn crocus, seem to have shortened the attack's duration. Today is the feast, and despite your ailment, you are bound to perform your duties as host. Your station requires it. Reputation in medieval society is paramount, more precious than gold, more lasting than stone fortifications. A single sign of weakness, one public stumble, and whispers will ripple through the nobility like a contagion. Those whispers can erode alliances, damage your children's marriage prospects, and even find their way to the king's court. So you rise, permitting Thomas and another servant to attire you in your most splendid garments. A tunic of deep blue Flemish wool, intricately embroidered at the neck and sleeves, a belt with ornate silver buckles, snug-fitting hose, and soft leather shoes, one of which has been carefully altered to accommodate your swollen toe. The left shoe has been slid, and an extra piece of leather has been artfully sewn in, creating a small pocket of space where your afflicted joint can rest without pressure. My walking staff, you remind Thomas, who scurries to retrieve the polished oak stick with its silver knob. It is ostensibly a decorative item, as many nobles carry such staffs as a sign of authority. Today, however, it will serve a very practical function, bearing the weight your painful foot cannot. You descend the stone staircase of your manor with care, each step a careful balance of dignity and pain. The great hall below is already a hive of activity. servants are scattering fresh rushes, mingled with fragrant herbs, across the floor. These sweet-smelling plants will release their aroma when crushed, helping to mask the unavoidable odors of a large gathering. Trestle tables are being arranged in long rows, with a high table positioned on a raised dais at one end, where you and your most esteemed guests will be seated. Your steward Henry approaches with a respectful bow. Unlike Thomas, who manages your personal needs, Henry is responsible for the entire estate, overseeing the other servants, managing finances, and ensuring the smooth operation of your lands and household. "My lord," he says, "the preparations are proceeding well. The Baron and his retinue were spotted on the road and should be here within the hour. The kitchens report that all dishes are on schedule." "Good," you respond, leaning lightly. "On your staff, and the special arrangements we discussed." "Yes, my lord. Your chair at the high table has been cushioned as you requested, with a small stool for your foot. And Lady Eleonora has conveyed your dietary instructions to the kitchen." You nod, content. These minor adjustments will enable you to meet your social obligations without aggravating your condition. This is the constant negotiation you must undertake, maintaining the appearance and conduct expected of your rank, while managing the physical repercussions they entail. Outside, the sound of horns pierces the air. The Baron's party has arrived, earlier than anticipated. You straighten your posture, grip your staff more tightly, and prepare to welcome your guests. The pain in your foot is a dull, persistent throb now, but it is manageable if you are cautious. You proceed to the courtyard, where your household is assembling to greet the visitors. Lady Eleonora joins you, looking magnificent in a gown of deep green, cinched with a gold-embroidered belt, a delicate web of golden chains adorning her hair. Together, you project the image of prosperity and power that your station demands. The Baron's party thunders into the courtyard with a clatter of hooves and a flutter of colorful banners. Baron Radcliffe is a stout man in his 40s, his face flushed from a combination of wind and wine. His clothes are opulent but slightly rumpled from his journey. He dismounts with a grunt that suggests he, too, may be familiar with the ailments of nobility, though he conceals it effectively. "Lord Thornbrook," he bellows, striding toward you with open arms. "It is good to see you again." You step forward to greet him, careful to place minimal weight on your afflicted foot. "Baron Radcliffe, welcome to my home. We are honored by your presence." The formal greetings proceed as the Baron's retinue family members, personal attendants, and guards are all acknowledged according to their station. This ritual of welcome is crucial, reinforcing the hierarchy and relationships that will govern the visit. Medieval society is built upon such clear delineations: who sits where, who speaks when, who defers to whom. To breach these unwritten rules is to court chaos. As the Baron's party is escorted to their chambers to refresh themselves, you return to the great hall to supervise the final preparations. The activity has intensified the pain in your foot, but you conceal it behind a nobleman's stoic mask. To display pain is to display weakness. The hall is now fully transformed. The trestle tables are covered with clean linen cloths, with wooden trenchers set at each place. There are silver cups for the high table, and cups of wood or horn for those of lesser rank. The fresh rushes on the floor release the scent of meadowsweet and lavender as they are trod upon. Servants hurry about, making last-minute adjustments under the steward's quiet, authoritative direction. You make your way to the high table and your modified chair. You test it and find that the cushions support your body while allowing your painful foot to rest, elevated on the small stool concealed beneath the table's long drape. From this position, you can preside over the feast without having to stand for extended periods of small mercy for which you are deeply grateful. The kitchens send word that the first courses are ready. You dispatch servants to inform the Baron and the other guests that the feast is about to commence. As you wait, Lady Eleonora joins you at the high table, leaning in to speak privately. "You are in pain," she observes, her voice too soft for others to overhear. "It is manageable," you assure her, though in truth the throbbing has escalated to a steady burn. She gives you a knowing glance. "Master Gilbert left this for you." From a small pouch at her belt, she produces a vial of poppy tincture, just enough to dull the edge, not enough to cloud your mind. You accept it with gratitude, taking a small sip when you are sure no one is watching. The bitter taste is followed by the familiar, warming sensation that signals relief is on its way. It will not be complete relief. You will still feel the pain, but it will be muted, pushed to the background, allowing you to concentrate on your duties as host. The guests begin to file into the hall, taking their designated places according to rank. The Baron and his immediate family join you at the high table, while their attendants and your own household knights and officials occupy the tables below. The lower servants will dine later, after the feast has ended, on the leftovers and simpler dishes prepared for them. The meal begins with a ceremonial washing of hands. Servants circulate among the tables with basins of rose-scented water and clean towels. This ritual is both practical, as most of the food will be eaten with the fingers, and symbolic, marking the formal beginning of the meal. The first course arrives, carried in a procession of servants. For most of the guests, there are rich meat pasties, roasted fowl, and a soup of herbs and barley. At your place, as you arranged with the kitchen, the offerings are more modest. Boiled chicken, without the fatty skin, bread, and a small portion of fish cooked with herbs. It is still a luxurious meal compared to peasant fare, but it is far less likely to aggravate your gout than the dishes being served to the others. Baron Radcliffe, seated to your right, takes note of the difference. Not partaking of the full feast, Lord Thornbrook, he asks, tearing into a meat pastry with gusto. You offer a diplomatic smile, a temporary precaution. "My physician has advised caution with certain foods." The Baron grunts in acknowledgement. "Ah, the cursed gout. The disease of kings and nobles, is it not?" He raises his wine cup in a half salute. "I've had a touch of it myself these past few years. A damnable thing." "Indeed," you concur, relieved by his understanding. "The price we pay for our station, it seems." The Baron lets out a booming laugh that draws glances from the nearby tables. "Well said. The peasants don't suffer from it, do they? They're too busy breaking their backs in the fields to develop our refined afflictions." There is a kernel of truth in his jest. Gout is a rarity among the working classes. Their diet of simple grains, vegetables, and infrequent meat provides little opportunity for uric acid to build up. Their constant physical labor keeps their bodies processing what they consume efficiently. It is the combination of rich foods, especially organ meats, game birds, and certain fish with wine, and a more sedentary lifestyle that allows gout to flourish as the feast wears on. You notice the varying levels of consumption around you. The Baron eats and drinks prodigiously, as do many of the knights and officials at the lower tables. It is a point of pride for a nobleman to demonstrate his prosperity through lavish consumption. Yet, you also observe that some of the older men, particularly those who occasionally wince as they shift their weight, eat more moderately and add water to their wine. They too have learned the painful lessons that gout imparts. Between courses, minstrels perform, singing ballads of chivalry and courtly romance, accompanied by lutes and small harps. This entertainment provides a respite from the eating and contributes to the culture and atmosphere befitting a noble household. It also creates opportunities for you to converse with your guests, building the relationships that are the true objective of such gatherings. "I understand the king has levied a new tax on wool exports," you say to Baron Radcliffe, guiding the conversation toward matters of mutual concern. "Your estates, like his, produce a significant amount of wool for export to Flanders, where it is woven into the fine cloth worn by Europe's nobility. The baron scowls. Indeed, and at the worst possible time. The merchants from Bruges are already complaining about the quality of last year's clip. Add this tax, and they will start looking to Spain for their wool. This initiates a lengthy discussion of trade, taxes, and royal policy that continues through the next course. Other nobles at the high table join in, sharing information and opinions. This is how the medieval nobility conducts its business, through conversations at feasts and social events, weaving networks of shared interests and mutual support. As the main courses are cleared and the sweet dishes are brought out, fruits preserved in honey, rich custards, and small cakes flavored with expensive Eastern spices, your foot reminds you of its presence. Despite the cushioned chair and elevated stool, despite the poppy tincture and your careful food choices, the pain has been steadily mounting throughout the meal. Lady Eleonora senses your discomfort and subtly signals the steward. He approaches and bends to hear her quiet instruction, then nods and withdraws. A few moments later, the minstrels launch into a particularly lively performance. A comic tale of a knight's misadventures that has the entire hall roaring with laughter. Under the cover of this distraction, you shift in your seat, trying to find a position that offers some relief. Perhaps some fresh air, my lord, Lady Eleonora suggests quietly. This tale will hold their attention for some time. You nod gratefully, using your staff and accepting her discreet assistance. You rise and make your way slowly to a side door that opens onto a small garden adjacent to the great hall. The cool evening air is a welcome relief after the heat and clamor inside. You should return, you tell Eleonora, once you are seated on a stone bench. Our guests will notice if we are both absent. In a moment, she replies, arranging her skirts as she sits beside you. First, tell me honestly, how bad is the pain? You sigh, letting the mask of noble composure you have worn all evening fall away. It is worsening. The movement, the heat of the hall. You gesture helplessly. Even with all our precautions, it is flaring up again. She takes your hand, her face etched with concern in the dimming light. Shall I send for Master Gilbert? You consider this. The physician could bring stronger remedies, but to summon him during a feast would draw attention to your condition and might be seen as an insult to the baron. Medieval etiquette is strict. A host must never display weakness or discomfort that could make his guests feel unwelcome. No, you decide. I can manage until the feast concludes. I just need a few moments here to compose myself. Lady Eleonora nods, understanding both your pain and the social conventions that compel you to endure it in silence. This is yet another burden of nobility. The constant need to maintain appearances, regardless of the personal cost. After a short rest, you return to the hall, timing your re-entry during a pause in the entertainment. Few seem to have noticed your absence, and those who did likely assumed you were attending to your duties as host. The baron is deep in conversation with another guest, his cup having been refilled yet again with the sweet wine that will, in time, probably bring him the same suffering you are now experiencing. The feast continues for another hour, with more food, more wine, and more entertainment. You dutifully play the part of host, engaging in conversation, ensuring the baron and other important guests feel properly honored, and maintaining the delicate balance of medieval social politics, all while a fire burns in your foot. Finally, the baron rises, swaying slightly from the effects of the wine. A magnificent feast, Lord Thornbrook. Your hospitality is as generous as your reputation claims. This is the signal that the formal part of the evening has concluded. Some guests will retire to their chambers. Others will linger for more drinking and conversation. But the ritual, obligations have been fulfilled. You can now withdraw without causing offense. You honor us with your presence. Baron, you reply, also standing, despite the sharp protest from your foot. My home is yours for as long as you wish to stay. After The final courtesies are exchanged. You make your way slowly back to your chamber, leaning heavily on your staff. The poppy tincture has worn off, and each step sends jagged spikes of pain shooting up your leg. By the time you reach your room, you are breathing heavily from the effort of maintaining your composure. Thomas is waiting with a young assistant. They help you to undress and prepare for bed, removing the fine clothing and replacing it with a simple linen sleeping shirt. The modified shoe comes off last, revealing a toe that is now visibly more swollen than it was this morning, the skin stretched tight and gleaming. "Shall I send for Master Gilbert, my lord?" Thomas asks, his face creased with concern. "Yes," you say, too exhausted and in too much pain to keep up the pretense. "And bring cool water for my foot until he arrives." While you wait for the physician, you lie back against the pillows, your throbbing foot elevated on cushions. The feast was a success. The Baron is pleased. Your alliance has been strengthened, and your reputation for hospitality is secure. But the cost is written in the pain that pulses through your body with every beat of your heart. This is the reality behind the glamour of medieval nobility. The physical price paid for social standing. While the peasants suffer from having too little, you suffer from having too much. Their bodies are worn down by labor and occasional hunger. Yours is being poisoned by abundance. Neither fate is enviable, merely different manifestations of the same human vulnerability to circumstance. Master Gilbert arrives, his face grim when he sees your foot. "The feast, I presume?" You nod warily. "I followed your advice as much as I was able. Simpler food, watered wine, but the standing, the heat." He sighs, opening his satchel. "The body requires time to heal, my lord. Each attack makes the next one more likely, unless that healing is complete." He begins to prepare a stronger poultice than before, the pungent aroma of herbs filling the chamber. And complete healing demands more than just waiting for the pain to pass. It requires ongoing change. This is the true challenge you face. Not just recovering from this attack, but preventing the next one. And that means confronting the very habits and expectations that define your position in society. Can you be a medieval lord without the constant feasting, the wine, the rich foods that are the symbols of your status? Can you find a balance between the demands of your rank and the needs of your body? As Master Gilbert applies the fresh poultice to your foot, the cool herbs bringing immediate, if minor, relief, you consider what changes might be feasible. Perhaps more walking when you are well, more water between cups of wine, more fish and fewer game birds on your daily table. Small adjustments that might, over time, reduce the frequency and severity of your attacks. "Rest now, my lord," Master Gilbert advises, packing his supplies. "I have left a stronger dose of poppy tincture for the night. We will see how things stand tomorrow." After he departs, you take the tincture, grateful for the relief it will bring. As the medicine begins to work, dulling the sharp edges of your pain, you reflect on the day. Despite your condition, you fulfilled your duties. The feast served its purpose. The alliance with Baron Radcliffe is firm. Perhaps that is the real skill of nobility. Not just commanding wealth and power, but navigating the costs and constraints that come with them. Finding ways to meet the expectations of your position while protecting yourself from its excesses. It is a different kind of survival skill than those the peasants must master, but no less essential. The poppy tincture pulls you toward sleep, your thoughts growing hazy and disconnected. Your final conscious reflection is that tomorrow, after the Baron departs, you will begin to implement those small changes, a slightly different path that might lead to less suffering while still preserving your place in the rigid hierarchy of medieval society. As you drift into sleep, the pain in your foot recedes to a distant throb, a constant reminder of the bargain struck between privilege and its price. The disease of kings has marked you, as it marks so many of your class. A painful brand of belonging to a world of excess that both elevates and punishes those who inhabit it. In the quiet darkness of your chamber, far from the noise and demands of the feast, your body begins its slow work of healing. Outside, the estate settles into the night. Servants clean the great hall, putting away the remnants of the feast. Guards patrol the walls and courtyards. In the village beyond your manor, peasants sleep the deep sleep of physical exhaustion. Their bodies tired, but largely free of the crystalline deposits that torture your joints. Different lives, different sufferings. The medieval world turns on this axis of inequality, with each person bearing their particular burdens according to their station. For now, yours is the burning pain of gout, the ironic curse of having too much in a world where most have too little. Morning comes with the distant crowing of roosters and the soft murmur of servants starting their daily chores. The poppy tincture has dissipated during the night, and you awaken to a foot that is still swollen but less excruciatingly painful. Master Gilbert's stronger poultice seems to have drawn some of the fire from the inflamed joint. Through the narrow window, you see the day promises to be fine, with a clear blue sky and the kind of crisp autumn air that makes physical activity a pleasure. On a day like this, if you were well, you might have joined the Baron for a hunt, galloping through your forests with a falcon on your wrist, or hounds baying ahead. These are the noble pleasures that your gout so often denies you. Thomas enters with a tray, carrying a pottery cup of steaming liquid. "Good morning, my lord. Master Gilbert left this for you to drink upon waking." You prop yourself up and accept the cup, sniffing its contents. The bitter scent of herbs, meadow sweet willow bark, and other anti-inflammatory plants reaches with the steam. It's not a pleasant drink, but one you have grown accustomed to. "The Baron?" you ask, after forcing down the medicine. "Already breaking his fast in the hall, my lord. He plans to depart before midday." This is a relief. Hosting the Baron was politically necessary, but it required an energy you could ill afford. Once he leaves, you can focus on your recovery without the pressure of maintaining appearances. "Help me dress," you say. "Nothing formal. I will take my breakfast here." Thomas selects simple attire, a loose-fitting tunic of undyed wool and the modified shoe. Even so, dressing is a careful dance with pain. Once dressed, you settle into a chair by the window. Thomas brings your meal, a piece of bread, some watered ale, and a small portion of cold fish from last night. This simple fare is closer to a prosperous peasant's meal than your usual elaborate breakfast. But Master Gilbert's dietary advice has been unwavering. The fewer rich foods, the better as you eat. You hear the sounds of the Baron's departure from the courtyard below. You should be there to bid him a formal farewell, but you both understand that your absence will be attributed to your condition. Gout, being a recognized ailment of the nobility, provides a socially acceptable excuse for such breaches of etiquette. Lady Eleonora will handle the farewells with the grace and authority that make her indispensable. The partnership between a lord and lady is vital. While you manage external affairs, she ensures the household and estate run smoothly, enhancing your shared reputation. Through your window, you watch the Baron's colorful party wind down the road. The peasants in the village will pause their work to bow or curtsy, their deference a part of the highly ritualized interactions between the classes. Once the Baron is out of sight, you relax. The visit achieved its purpose. Your alliance is strengthened, valuable information was exchanged, and your status is affirmed. These social connections are the invisible scaffolding of the medieval hierarchy. Lady Eleonora joins you, her face slightly flushed from managing the departure. "The Baron sends his regards and hopes for your swift recovery," she reports. "He also mentioned that he suffers from similar attacks, though he tries to hide it." You nod, unsurprised. "I noticed him favoring his right foot during the feast, too proud to acknowledge it." "Of course," she agrees with a small smile. "He did say something interesting. He's been consulting a Jewish physician from York who recommended cherries as a remedy for gout." He claims they have reduced the frequency of his attacks. This piques your interest. Medieval medicine is a mix of traditions. The Galenic system of humors from universities, monastic herbal knowledge, folk remedies, and wisdom from Islamic and Jewish physicians, who often possessed learning lost to Christian Europe. Jewish doctors, in particular, were sought by those who could afford them, despite widespread prejudice. Cherries, you muse. Master Gilbert has not mentioned those. They are difficult to come by out of season, Eleonora notes. But we could preserve them next summer if you wish to try. You make a mental note to ask Master Gilbert. He might be skeptical of advice from outside his tradition, but he is practical. The conversation shifts to household matters, accounts, to review a dispute between tenants. This is the daily business of lordship, the administrative foundation of your status. As midday approaches, the pain has subsided enough for you to venture downstairs. Using your staff, you make your way to your office, a small chamber off the great hall. Seated at a large oak table, you receive your steward's report. The harvest is complete, my lord, Henry informs you, consulting a notched tally stick. Better than last year, though not a bumper crop. The flour quality is good. This is welcome news. The harvest determines your income and the well-being of your estate. A poor harvest means hunger for peasants and less revenue for you. And the wool clip, you ask, sent to market last week. Prices are down slightly due to the new tax, but still profitable. You discuss other matters, repairs to cottages, timber to be cut, preparations for Christmas feasting. Throughout, your foot throbs, a constant reminder of your vulnerability. After the steward leaves, Master Gilbert arrives. He unwraps the poultice, his touch professional, as he assesses your foot. Improving, he pronounces, though the feast was a setback. You mention the Baron's physician and the cherries. Gilbert's expression remains neutral, but you sense a slight stiffness. Physicians guard their authority carefully. Cherries are cooling in nature, he says, after a moment, which might help balance the hot humors of gout. When available, they could be a useful addition to your diet. It's a diplomatic response, acknowledging the idea while maintaining his position as Gilbert prepares a fresh poultice. You broach the subject that has been on your mind. I've been considering changes to my daily life, you tell him. Not just during attacks, but always. The physician's interest is clearly piqued. Simpler food daily, more fish, less game and organ meats, more water, less wine. You pause, and more physical activity when I am well. Walking the estate instead of always riding. Master Gilbert shows cautious approval. These would be wise adjustments, my lord. As Hippocrates teaches, excess in food, drink, or sloth creates imbalances that manifest as ailments like gout. This reference to the ancient Greeks is typical of university-trained physicians. The challenge, you admit, is maintaining such moderation when my position demands otherwise. True, the physician acknowledges, wrapping your foot, but feasts might be occasions rather than habits. However, I would be remiss if I did not mention another factor that affects the humors. The passions, my lord. Anger, anxiety, excessive worldly concerns. These inflame the blood and contribute to conditions like gout. The ancients recommended tranquility of mind. This reflects the medieval understanding of a mind-body connection, an early recognition of psychosomatic effects. You consider this. A lord's life is filled with anxieties. Tranquility seems a luxury. Yet perhaps there are ways to find calm. Contemplation in your chapel, walks in your gardens, reading from your few precious books. I will consider your advice regarding the passions. You tell him, though that is a more difficult remedy than diet. The most valuable remedies often are, he replies with a slight smile. After he leaves, you spend the afternoon dictating letters to your clerk. Literacy is not universal among the nobility, but your monastic education gives you an advantage. By evening, your foot is much improved. You join Lady Eleonora for a simple supper in the family dining chamber, beginning your new regimen. The meal is fresh bread, a pottage of vegetables, a small piece of fish, and watered wine. It is satisfying without being excessive. After supper, you retire to the the private family room. Your two youngest children join you, eager to hear about the feast. Noble children are often fostered in other households to build connections and learn skills, creating an emotional distance considered necessary for their development. As darkness falls, servants bring candles and stoke the fire. Lady Eleonora supervises the children's evening prayers before they are taken to bed. You should rest, she tells you. Tomorrow you have tenants' disputes. To judge, you know she is right. As Lord, you are the judge in the manorial court, a fundamental role that directly impacts the lives of your people. As you settle into bed, you reflect on the day. The alliance is secure, the harvest is in, your gout is improving, and you have resolved to make changes. Underlying these practical matters is a deeper question your illness has forced you to confront. What does it mean to be a good Lord? Can you fulfill your duties while avoiding the excesses that harm you? Can you balance status and health? These are not questions your peasants face. Their challenges are more immediate. But perhaps there is wisdom in their simpler lives. Eat what nourishes, work with purpose, rest when tired. As you drift off, you wonder if your gout is not just a curse, but a strange blessing, a painful reminder of human limits that wealth cannot erase. A prompt to find a more sustainable way to live your privileged life. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, but also new opportunities to implement the changes you've envisioned. Morning light seeps into your chamber. You awaken to find your foot greatly improved, the angry swelling gone, only a slight tenderness remaining. Master Gilbert's remedies, especially the autumn crocus, have worked well. Thomas enters with a basin of warm water. Good morning, my lord. How are you? Better, you reply, placing your feet on the floor with minimal pain. I think I will join the household for prayers. Thomas helps you dress in practical, good quality clothing, saving the elaborate finery for formal occasions. Such clothing is a form of communication in medieval society, instantly signaling rank. With your walking staff still in hand for support, you make your way to the manor's small chapel, where your family and household officers are gathered. Lady Eleonora gives you a questioning look, and you nod to indicate you are better. Your children seem relieved to see you mobile again. After prayers, you have a simple breakfast of bread, honey, and cheese, reflecting your new resolution. The kitchen staff, guided by Lady Eleonora, has adjusted. A significant shift for a household accustomed to demonstrating status through rich food. With breakfast done, you proceed to your most important duty, presiding over the manorial court. In the great hall, you sit in your lordly chair on the dais, your steward beside you to advise on custom. The bailiff and a clerk are also present. Peasants from your villages stand in the lower part of the hall, dressed in their best, awaiting your judgment. The first case is a boundary dispute between two farmers. You listen to both men, question the bailiff, and then render a judgment that splits the disputed land. Neither man is fully satisfied, but they accept your authority without protest. More cases follow. A miller accused of overcharging a widow's inheritance claim, a dispute over livestock damage. Each requires careful attention to local custom and the broader community's well-being. Your foot remains comfortable, allowing you to concentrate, a welcome change from previous court sessions held during gout attacks. The final case is the most challenging. A tenant, John Weaver, has failed to perform his required labor service on your domain land. It is his third offense this year. John, a thin, weathered man, approaches, his eyes downcast. My lord, he explains hesitantly, my wife has been ill, a wasting sickness. On the days I was called to your fields, there was no one else to care for her or our young children. The bailiff interjects. His oldest daughter could have managed, my lord. John shakes his head. She was working as a day laborer for the miller's wife, earning coin we desperately need for medicines. This is a dilemma. Labor service is a fundamental feudal obligation. To ignore it undermines your authority. Yet, you also have a duty of mercy. You remember reports of a persistent fever in the village. What remedies has your wife received? You ask, your own recent illness fostering a genuine curiosity. The village-wise woman has given her herbal draughts, my lord. John replies, surprised by the personal question. Feverfew and chamomile, and we have paid for prayers at the church. This mix of herbalism and faith is typical of peasant healthcare. After a moment, you deliver your judgment. You will make up the missed labor days before but given the circumstances, there will be no additional penalty. The bailiff looks slightly disapproving, but John bows deeply, relieved. As he turns to leave, you add, and John, tell your wife that Lady Eleonora will send remedies from our own stores. This gesture is not required by custom. It is a personal choice, influenced by your own recent suffering. The gratitude on John's face suggests such direct concern is rare. With court concluded, you have a simple midday meal in your office. The morning has tired but not exhausted you. Later, you dictate letters to your clerk, correspondence with neighboring lords, instructions to a merchant, and a message to your eldest son, currently a squire in another noble household. In it, you mention your gout attack, but avoid dwelling on it, as excessive complaint is considered unseemly. Master Gilbert arrives for his daily check. A marked improvement, my lord, he says after examining your foot. The autumn crocus has been very effective, and I have followed your advice on diet, you add. The physician nods approvingly. Maintaining such moderation will serve you well. Now we must consider prevention. They discuss your new regimen in detail. Master Gilbert recommends herbs like dandelion root to cleanse the blood, and what of cherries, you ask, remembering the Baron's physician. When in season, yes, Gilbert concedes. Their cooling properties may help. We could preserve them in honey. His willingness to incorporate an outside suggestion speaks well of his practical approach. After he leaves, you take a walk in the manor gardens. The paths are well maintained, suitable for gentle exercise. As you savor the crisp air, you reflect on the insights your illness has prompted. The gout attack forced a rare pause, an opportunity to consider how you live and rule. Is there a way to fulfill your duties without the excesses that trigger your illness? Might there be wisdom in the simpler lives of your tenants? Lady Eleonora joins you. You seem deep in thought. She observes, I've been considering changes. You reply, not just in diet, but in how we run our household. The constant feasting, the display. It takes a toll on my health and our resources. She nods thoughtfully. The waste from our table alone could feed several families, and the cost of imported luxuries has risen. What if we aimed for simpler, daily fare, with elaborate meals only for important occasions? You suggest more time and useful activity, perhaps even more direct engagement with the management of our lands. This last idea is a significant departure from noble norms. Such changes would be noticed, she points out. Questions might arise about our prosperity. This is a valid concern. In medieval society, a simpler lifestyle could be perceived as a sign of decline. Perhaps we frame it not as reduction, but as refinement. You propose quality over quantity. The finest ingredients prepared simply. Discrimination rather than abstention. She smiles, appreciating the subtlety. This approach offers a middle path, a way to moderate your lifestyle without undermining your social standing. As you return to the manor, you feel a sense of possibility. Instead of just enduring the pain and returning to old habits, you have envisioned a different way of lordship. The challenge will be implementing it against the pressures of custom, but you are determined to try. The disease of kings has offered a painful but valuable lesson in the wisdom of moderation. The afternoon is spent on routine business. By evening, you are tired but satisfied. You have returned to your duties without compromising your health. After another simple supper, you drift towards sleep with cautious optimism. The worst of the attack has passed, leaving behind not just relief, but insight. True lordship, you realize, may lie not in excess, but in wisdom, not in consumption, but in the cultivation of a life that balances privilege with restraint. 3 months have passed. Winter has enveloped your estate in snow and ice. The great hall's hearth burns day and night against the penetrating cold. From your chamber window, you watch servants clearing paths in the courtyard. Your toe, once a source of fiery agony, feels blessedly normal. These past months have been a period of adjustment. You have maintained the moderate diet Master Gilbert recommended. Lady Eleonora, with her characteristic diplomacy, challenged the kitchen staff to reframe simplicity as sophistication, a strategy that has proven effective with both your household and guests. "My lord," Thomas says, entering with a small wooden box, "Master Gilbert has sent the new remedy." The physician had mentioned an unusual preventative treatment he learned from an Italian colleague. The medieval medical community, though limited, had surprising international connections. Thomas opens the box to reveal small cloth pouches filled with dried herbs and what appears to be crushed gemstone. This reflects the belief that precious stones held medicinal properties: sapphires to cool, rubies to warm. You are to steep 1 pouch in hot water each morning. "I will begin tomorrow," you decide. The physical changes are only part of the transformation prompted by your gout. More significant is the shift in your perspective. You now take a more direct interest in managing your estate, walking your lands, and speaking directly with tenants. This hands-on approach is unusual for a nobleman, but you've found it provides better information, improves relationships, and offers the physical activity Master Gilbert prescribed. The long winter evenings have also allowed for more reading of classical authors like Cicero and Seneca, whose discussions on moderation and power resonate with your new philosophy. Lady Eleonora has noticed the change. "You seem more at peace," she observed one evening. "Not just in body, but in spirit." She is right. The pain of gout has led to a kind of wisdom. The disease of kings has taught you that true authority lies in balance and careful stewardship, not in excess. A knock at the door interrupts your thoughts. The steward enters, his face grim. "My lord, riders have arrived from Oakley. There has been a fire. 3 cottages burned in the night. Winter fires are a constant danger. Casualties?" you ask, already reaching for your heavy cloak. "1 elderly man died from the smoke. 2 others have burns. The death is tragic but not unexpected. Your concern is for the survivors. Have the kitchens prepare food supplies," you instruct, "and have the bailiff assess what building materials we can spare. I will ride to Oakley myself." The steward is surprised. "The roads are treacherous, my lord. In the past, you might have sent a representative, but your thinking has changed." "I will go," you state firmly. "Those are my people. They should see their lord," responds in person. You dress in layers of wool and fur. Lady Eleonora sees you off, her face a mixture of concern and support. "Be careful," she cautions. Master Gilbert warns that extreme cold can trigger gout. Her personal care is a blessing. Many noble marriages, arranged for advantage, lack such affection. The journey to Oakley is difficult. The snow-covered tracks are slippery. The winter landscape appears peaceful, but it masks a constant struggle for survival. For the peasants, these are the most precarious months, as stored food dwindles and the cold becomes an enemy. Your gout seems a minor burden compared to their hardships. Yet there is a connection. Both reflect the constraints of medieval life that even wealth cannot erase. Oakley is a small cluster of cottages around a stone church. Smoke still rises from the eastern edge of the village. The villagers are surprised to see you in person. The local bailiff hurries forward. "My lord, we didn't expect you yourself." "I came to see the damage firsthand," you reply. He leads you to the ruins of 3 cottages, their timber frames blackened. The displaced families, 11 people in all, are gathered nearby, their faces a mixture of shock and uncertainty. You approach them directly, forgoing the usual noble distance. "I am sorry for your losses," you say simply. The eldest among them, a woman with a deeply lined face, nods. "He was my father, my lord, blind these past 5 years. The smoke took him before the flames. God be thanked." This stoic acceptance of death is common among peasants. "We have brought food," you tell them, "and I have instructed the bailiff to provide building materials. When weather permits, we will begin rebuilding." This commitment exceeds what custom requires. Many lords would offer minimal help, if any. "Thank you, my lord," the woman responds, genuine gratitude in her voice. "Winter is hard enough, with a roof over one's head," you acknowledge. "No one on my lands should face it without shelter if I can help." This statement reflects your evolved view of lordship, a shift from rights and privileges to responsibility and care. The disease of kings has humbled you, making you more aware of shared human vulnerability. You spend the next hour inspecting the damage and consulting with the village carpenter. The cold is biting, and you are mindful of your feet, but you remain until you are satisfied that all possible aid is being rendered. As you prepare to leave, the elderly woman approaches, offering a small cloth pouch. "For your kindness, my lord. My mother taught me to make this for joint pains." You accept the humble gift. "What does it contain?" you ask. "Nettles, willow bark, and a bit of meadowsweet," she explains. The ingredients are remarkably similar to Master Gilbert's prescriptions, representing a different kind of knowledge, one based on generations of practical experience. "I will use it with gratitude," you promise. This exchange, a lord accepting healing wisdom from a peasant, would be unthinkable to many of your peers. You return to the manor as darkness falls. Lady Eleonora greets you with relief. Over a simple, warming supper, you describe the situation. "A generous response," she comments. "More than most lords would offer." Perhaps you acknowledge, "But it seems to me that true lordship lies in protection and care, not just collecting rents. Privilege brings responsibility." She smiles, recognizing your evolution. "The disease of kings has taught you something about being a better lord, it seems." "Indeed," you agree, raising your cup. "Pain can be an effective teacher." That night, you realize your feet are comfortable despite the cold and exertion. The changes you've made are working. More significantly, your perspective has transformed. The painful reminder of your own vulnerability has fostered a greater connection with your people. The recognition that excess harms has led to moderation in how you wield authority. The awareness that wisdom comes from unexpected sources has opened you to knowledge beyond noble channels. These are profound shifts in a society where hierarchy is considered immutable. As sleep approaches, you reflect that this may be the hidden gift of the disease of kings. The pain has offered a lesson in balance that extends far beyond diet. Outside, winter holds the medieval world in its grip. In other manors, lords feast less moderately, some perhaps feeling the first twinges of their own attacks. Your gout has given you a unique window into the paradoxes of your time, allowing you to see beyond rank to the shared vulnerabilities that unite all people. For this painful enlightenment, you are, ironically, grateful. The disease of kings has made you, in subtle but meaningful ways, a better lord. The peasants of Oakley, with promised materials for their homes, are the first to experience the practical effects. Perhaps this is how societies evolve, not through grand upheavals, but through individual revelations that reshape how power is understood and exercised. Your gout, in its small way, may be contributing to such an evolution, its lessons rippling outward from your personal experience. This thought gives purpose to your suffering. The disease of kings becomes not just an affliction, but a teacher whose lessons might, in time, benefit both king and commoner. With this comforting reflection, you surrender to sleep, your body at ease and your mind at peace.